You're listening to Chem Stories, a podcast series created by people with lived experience of P&P chemsex.
Hey, cutie squad. This is Captain Patrice speaking from the flight deck of Chem Stories Airlines. We're now in the third and final leg of our YUL heritage flight. Montreal host Éric wraps up his conversation with Hugues and Jean-Sébastien. Our flight plan forecast discussions on the pressing question of community response to chemsex, advocating for sustainable pathways that acknowledge both the struggles and our collective resilience. Should you experience turbulence while listening to this podcast, please visit our list of resources and services related to P&P chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca. Thank you for choosing Chem Stories Airlines, where the journey is always a trip.
If we want to address what chemsex is all about, we have to talk about the fun we're getting and the connection and the reason why we go and how, and maybe we're going to touch that after, but if we want to think about a community response to chemsex and help people who wants to get out of it or people who want to see or live chemsex differently, we have to offer something else. And I think for many people actually that recover or are doing chemsex also sometimes create a connection with the community, like in a strange way. And when you go out of it or just being in and out of it, you kind of experience another way of connecting with people in the communities. I think we could talk also about that.
Where is that connection?
Yeah, how can we connect in another way? And maybe, I mean, this is a really large question, but and we don't have to go into solutions right away. But yeah, how do we connect? Because, well, I found some other ways to kind of connect with people. And I think Jean-Sébastien, probably you too, and you also, because you decided to change also your way of going to chemsex parties. So what was the alternative, if there's one, or many?
I don't know if there's one solution, and I think I'd be an idiot to say that there's only one solution, because clearly there's not. You don't need to find a solution. I've been advocating for many years for a better community response to the phenomena or the problems or the issues or just the trend of crystal meth, chemsex, and addiction in queer community. And I've took a stand against the fact that the doctors didn't know what to do, that the healthcare system didn't really want to, create pathways that were designed for us and by us. And there was just this denial of the issue. It's still all there, right? Like, it's not perfect. We've done significant work. There are some programs that exist and some incredible leaders in the field now in research and everything. Proof is we're doing a podcast on this funded by university. So, things have changed. I've advocated a lot about the community response on how we deal with the community that's doing this. Mm-hmm. So it was very external, like we should be taken care of going through this. And I agree, like we all pay taxes. This should come as a service.
Yeah.
However, why as a community are we still not more skilled at dealing with each other through this? Mm-hmm. That's always a mystery to me. Why is it that when someone in our group of friends kind of slips and slides down the basement steps and kind of loses the shit for a while around meth or drugs or sex, we're pointing it out as an individual factor? Like every time someone has a struggle with this, it's individualized. Whereas this is something we've been going through as a community for years and decades, and we've seen this happen more and more. And why are we always isolating the person that's going through it? And why don't we have a community response? Why are we not trained as queer people to deal with each other during that time? And I say this like I've had friends that I had to let go of because it was too intense. So why are we not better at comprehending this? This would create connection. This would give perhaps purpose to certain relationships. I don't know. I find that we've said loud and clear what we needed from the system. I don't know if the system's ever going to give us what we need. But one thing's for sure is that I think we fail or have failed or partially fail anyways to one another when we struggle. And this culture that you were discussing of competition and perfectionism, when someone stumbles, we have a hard time as a community picking them up. And I find that's fascinating and unfortunate, but I think that's where the work is. That's where the connection is. That's where the need for compartmentalize, sex lives and fun life and work life might diminish and we might be more harmonized.
That's interesting. Of course, I mean, we've seen it with the HIV crisis, like having the governments and every agency possible, like agencies and pharmaceutical and stuff. There was a lot of work like those activists of ACT UP and whatever did a lot of work to get there. I think the work you've done is wonderful. I think we shouldn't stop the fight, even though we're not optimistic about the outcomes, because like we just like always have to demand for our rights and what we know is right for us. But also, like, I think you're right about saying like we have to address also within the community. And I think we touched like on the idea that we need connection. Maybe that is outside of sex, because like that's kind of the only type of connection we've built through the years. So of course, like maybe creating some other ways. But also still, like I was saying, I think connection through sexuality is still something beautiful. So how do we keep it? So I guess also reframing those types of connection or creating new paths to continue to have those types of connection that is maybe outside of this culture, but also like a way to like not ostracize and have people who not be part of these new. So like, yes, sober spaces are wonderful for that. Like to people who like are recovering or don't want to use, like to don't have this pressure of having substances around is really important. But also like, if that's a path, like how do we create like in the same area, a place for people who are using that want to still like be able to connect without being ostracized. So yeah, I think we have a lot of work and a lot of trial and errors to do on that. And I think like with also like pornography and the OnlyFans of this world, and like I think a lot of our sexuality is shifting in many ways. But yeah, it's like connection, sexuality is at the heart of the problem, and like creating more ways to have sex and more ways to connect, having this Venn diagram that parts connect, overlap, and parts doesn't, I think.
I think in the general population right now, like the young people have a really different relation to sex, like in the general population. We see like there's some stats that say that actually like the people are having less and less sex. It was always on the if we see a diagram, it was going up for a long time, and now it's actually like going down. So I think there's many reasons for that, but I think there's also maybe, I don't know if I want to see it in a positive way. I think it's also a way of like people maybe are taking this step back that we're talking about okay, wait, why and what's the reason of the sex I'm having, like what's the goal, what do I want to have with that, and if it's not a way to connect, and if it's not this and this, and if it's only a thing that I'm consuming, is it really what I want? So I think it's interesting to redefine our connection to sex. And I think we've been, and we can go back to that because you were talking about that, Hugues, but I think we've been doing it a lot in our gay lives and in the gay history, especially if we talk about the HIV crisis. I mean, it just like, and I think I want to go back to it because I think it defines the kind of sexuality we have now as a community. It was a shock. It was like a deep trauma for the community. And I'm not like inventing this. A lot of people are making connection between HIV crisis and the chemsex we're having now and kind of connect the two together. We do know that HIV positive people represent a huge part of the chemsex community also. So it's really connected and intertwined. And I maybe want to bounce back to exactly the words we're using, but some people see their diagnosis as, oh, I have HIV, so I'm already toxic, so why not go all the way? And so maybe I just want to go back to that. And I know, Jean-Sébastien, you work in HIV now. You work really with this population. Hugues, you're HIV positive. So how do you see that? How do you see this connection maybe between the need for chemsex connected with maybe the HIV crisis?
That's really interesting. I think I'll answer in two parts. First part is I will stay on the topic of community response because I think we have a history of fighting for our sexual health there. And I think like it wasn't perfect, like how people responded to HIV, especially non-queer people. And as I said, the authorities. But I think like, because like it was framed so much as this big crisis and then there was a void. No one talked about it for decades. And like, how do we talk about HIV nowadays? I think it's something that's why I'm open about my diagnosis. That's why I host podcasts, because I think it's time that we have some like public discourse about HIV that is not rooted in the trauma of the 90s and 80s. It like we had to go that dramatic, not only because queer people are always dramatic, but because like
we were dying.
Yeah, people were dying, and they died fabulously, and I'm really proud to know the blood of those people like stream through my vein now. It gives me strength. Yeah, they're really my blood ancestor. But yeah, so I think like one of the link there is like we need to bring the conversation of chemsex to the table. But like maybe knowing that if we make too much maybe of this crisis discourse, and then after, like, how do we frame it so it's like a sustainable thing to have real solution and help from like this general public and authorities. So yeah, that would be my humble opinion on the topic.
Maybe if we go back again to something you said, Hugues, that really touched me when you talked about your HIV journey and everything you said. Also that community action kind of became a way to work it out, another exit strategy, a way out, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I really relate to that because for me, when I decided, I decided, okay, no, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I went to anonymous groups, Crystal Meth Anonymous, and yes, I found a community there that was really important. But the most important thing for me in these groups was that I was able to help people.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I was explaining at the beginning, that this kind of shift in my mind that I have to get in my community and do something for other people. And this is how I got sober, and I'm still sober today. And so I wanted maybe to know how because I know we have the same path, the three of us, I think,
much,
in this way. So I'm curious maybe to see how this kind of came in your journey of like, okay, I need to be in my community and do something about some issues.
Quite frankly, I don't think I would have helped anyone if someone hadn't told me you have to help people. Like I said,
True that.
As a very egotistical person in the past, I would have been like, screw them, they can figure their shit out. But the truth is, a lot of people helped me. Like a lot of people helped me. A lot of people made sure that I was still alive, and a lot of people nurtured and nursed me back to health. So you can't just walk away from that. And when you start getting better, making changes, whether that's sobriety or not, you realize that you didn't do this alone. And then that value became built in. So I has, like you mentioned, Éric, I started helping people, and people started actually listening to me and thinking that what I had to offer was either important or valuable enough for that day to not use or to come back the next day. So that made me feel important in the eyes of someone. Which sounds very egotistical or vain, but it's not. Because when you walk into addiction and trauma and chaos, you don't come out of it very strong. Like, you're not doing so well on day 1 or day 15. So when people start giving your value back to you because you're doing something for them, it kind of builds you back up and creates this connection to other people. And then you get a role in life. And people are still helping you, and you're transmitting that same kind of message or help to other people. It just creates a chain, and it fast tracks recovery, change, or whatever it is you want to get going. I self-proclaim addict, so whatever works, I tend to make it a problem and make it a huge thing. So even helping people, I helped too many people, and I was too busy, and I got sick of it, and I had to pull back from it. So it's all a dosing. That's actually how I learned moderation.
Finally.
So you haven't quit helping other people?
I haven't quit, but get on the list. No, I'm kidding. But it's something that, the anonymous fraternities get a lot of flack around like being this or not being that. I will just say that thank God they were there, because they were the only place that was open in certain nights where otherwise I would have used or ended up in the streets. Like, these spaces existed. We need more of them, whether they're anonymously led or fraternity led or whatever. We just need more spaces where people can just show up, because that's what saved me and that's what helped me. And then I figured that had value, and I've dedicated a lot of time speaking about it or trying to recreate either virtual spaces or spaces like this so that people feel heard.
When we talk about community, none of us mentioned any structure, organization. We talked about people.
Yeah.
and it's interesting because it reminds me like when, for example, when I'm in CMA and Crystal Meth Anonymous group, some structures like health clinic, organization are telling people coming to them for help, oh, go to CMA. And we're like, CMA is nothing. It's not a structure. It's a group of people not trained. It's like you said about peer-to-peer help. This is only what we do. And at some point we're like, okay, yeah, of course, tell them to come. But I mean, what are...
Can we send them back?
Exactly. I mean, they come to your clinic and they have a health problem, which is an addiction to crystal meth. Yeah. There should be something there.
Yeah.
They are in specialized clinic in the village that are supposed to address the health problematic of these populations. And the only help for a long time. Now it's changing a bit, but still, it's all like the programs are sometimes like yearly thing, and they don't like, it's not permanent. There's not like a permanent chemsex support in all the sexual clinics in the village, which should be kind of basic.
Yeah.
It should be like, for me, the basic, but no, they still say you can go to a CMA meeting. Of course they can do that. And they should give them this solution.
The only one.
Like we should need more. But I think it's interesting because when we also talked about, like before this episode, we were talking together, and also Jean-Sébastien, you touched base on this earlier, but the idea of how we relate to each other and how the community is basically the people, and how as individual we can make a difference. And I think you're both examples of that, of like, we're just going to do our thing and do our stuff outside of the structures, which is a very queer thing to do also. So we're just going to not wait for the structures to do it, because we know that we can wait for a long time and that the structures won't give us anything. I mean, for the HIV epidemic was the best example. We're not going to wait for them to give us what we need.
Gay men basically invented safer sex because like it was not a thing. We had to figure it out ourselves. So
yeah. And you were talking about like peer-to-peer and how it's important, but Jean-Sébastien, we're saying, well, we know how to do this, and we're talking about the HIV in the 90s. We know how to get together, how to make a community, how to defend ourselves. And yeah, I think we can get inspired from that, no?
100%. I think with whatever's going on in the world, eras bring different challenges and different victories. Now is, I don't know how to describe now. But I know that as a 42-year-old gay man, I've witnessed this community stand and fall and stand back again and reinvent and add letters to the alphabet of LGBTQ, add colors to the rainbow, come up with new flags. So we've done inclusion, we've done compassion before. For some reason, addiction seems to be challenging for a lot of us, because I think a lot of us have different levels of it, or it triggers different layers of shame. I don't know. So it's harder to be compassionate and inclusive and all together around chemsex and addiction, maybe because we're all concerned by it. Still, we know how to do this. We've done this before. And I think that's the way of hope.
No, but I think you're right. And like, it's always a struggle because like our like queer history is not taught. Like, and it's not something we learn from our parents, because most of the time our parents aren't queer. But like it's out there, and even if it's like full of gaps and like fill in the blanks moment, we can invent. We know how to tell beautiful lies and imagine things. But like it's out there, and maybe it's like really, really sad that we have to revisit our history. Like maybe we shouldn't do it the way we are like. I think it's a need now to do it, because like you said, how the world is going. But I think more and more people are realizing that we need to revisit like what were the tactics and strategies of our ancestors, and like how to organize, and how like what is an actual fight, you know? And I think it's like crystal meth maybe and chemsex and addiction right now is like, because we are losing some people and losing some friends, it is something that we need to fight for. And like it's one of the most concrete, maybe it's in my life, in my circle, but to me, it is like the crisis of my lifetime right now. Yeah. Is that. And I said earlier, maybe I don't necessarily want it to frame it as a crisis. I don't want necessarily to create the same drama that was made around, or trauma that was made around HIV, but I still feel like it's one of the big fight that we need to fight right now. So So yeah, like you said, we know how to do this, or we need to remember how to do this because we've done it before. So.
The truth is that, you said it, we're losing people. Not only like people are dying, but we're losing them, like not seeing them. They some people just disappear. We just don't see them anymore. And we were talking earlier about the fact that the pandemic changed also the way I think. I don't know if people are. I don't think that it's because, like, if the vibe in bad houses and everything is different, maybe people are not using anymore in bad houses. But I think a lot of people are using alone at home.
Yes.
And they learned that during the pandemic.
Yes.
And people are, of course, they're not staying alone all the time, but some of them, yes. And because you can have chemsex alone, you can 100%. Also stay alone in your room, watch porn for days, and don't go out. And so it's, people are isolated sometimes in their chemsex use also. And what I see from my experience of talking about it with gay men, of course, I talk to gay men who use chemsex, but I think the very important thing is get in conversation with people who are not using. Because when you get in conversation with them and you go really deep, and when you talk about your experience with them, what I get from them is generally, or they are really curious about it and really there's a kind of attraction-repulsion situation with chemsex and with crystal meth because they're around it, even if they don't use. If they're on Grindr, they've been offered chemsex and they've been offered Tina, and I see this kind of, sometimes they don't want to talk about it because they're really attracted by it. And when we kind of deconstruct that, I had a really deep conversation about that I never had with other gay men around sexuality, sexual health, addiction. People open up. Once you've said, I used crystal meth for a few years and I did chemsex for, people just just talk. Because then, okay, I can talk to you about my alcohol problem because
or how I seek validation through sex and all those things.
And it just flows. And a lot of people, like, for example, when we did Ça prend un village, of course, people with a chemsex history came and wanted to talk. But the majority of people were people with no chemsex history, that or they knew someone or they were really moved by it, but they didn't know why. They were like, and it was gay men that were really they were attracted by it, but they were on the on the brakes, and really afraid. Even if they were afraid of chemsex, afraid of crystal meth because they don't know if they're gonna be able to resist or things like that. And so it's a conversation we need to have, and when we have it, we end up talking about so many important things in our community and the way we connect together. And for me, it can be like, it's cliche also, and I don't want to say crisis again, but when there's a problem or a situation that's perceived as negative or as difficult, there's always, I think, an opportunity there to do something. And I think chemsex is showing us something about our community, and we have the occasion to kind of talk about it
like
through chemsex.
Like a magnifying glass on some of the issues, like
and people, I think the right word for a lot of people in our community is ambivalence towards this. Right? Like, it's maybe I like it, maybe I don't, maybe I'm afraid of it, maybe I'm fascinated by it, right? And I think that goes into the need for an honest prevention talk as well, and information. Scare tactics will never work. Like, it's never. But talking amongst ourselves about the fascination of it and the lure of how sexy and how dark and how weird it is. I've always been fascinated by the underbellies of society. Like, as a young kid, I was looking at the sex workers and I was like, damn, these girls are cool, right? Like, it was all like crime scenes. Like, it just, like, something was very erotic about it all. And obviously, this has served me. Went right into it. But the fascination of it and the ambivalence and the plethora of subjects and topics that it ignites in people is worth the discussion, and it's worth building programs around and having conversations about. As a community, though, and I think that's just human beings in general. When a crisis, again, that word that we don't want to use, but let's use it because we've used it 7 times. When a crisis occurs and we go through it, we tend to shift away from it right away. COVID is a perfect example. Never happened. Never happened. HIV, U equals U. Right? Like, it's just like, we're very, very prone to, like, I'm over it. It's done. And we live with the backorder trauma that comes up. I think the same thing is true here. And I know I've experienced it myself. When I got better, I just want to get the hell out of those groups and out of that scene and not talk about it for a while. I'm like, I'm done. I'm okay. I survived. Don't talk to me about it. But I think that's a general, very human reaction to how we show up and then how we don't show up and how we retract. And I'm guilty of that. I've left the community at one point during some times because I'm like, oh, bitches, I'm done. You're too heavy. Like, it's just too much. But I think our responsibility is to keep trying to go back, at least to do something and build some bridges over there. Yeah. It was Alan Down in the book The Velvet Rage that said, when gay men get better about their shame issues, about their internal struggles, they tend to leave the community. They withdraw from social circles and the sex parties and everything else because it no longer speaks to them. But there's also a flee mechanism out of there. Like we bolt out of there. And I know I've done it. I've gotten better on certain things, and I've turned my back on community gatherings or social circles or certain ways of life just because, not because I thought I was better, just because I needed a break. I needed to simmer down. It didn't speak to me anymore. Very legit, very human, very understandable. I don't think people are pissed. But I think as community, we probably have a bigger responsibility to try to go back at least, or figure out a way to be there for one another, even though it's triggering and it's rehashing certain traumas we'd rather forget. I think we have a bond to our history.
Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Jean-Sébastien, Hugues. We do this podcast because we think it's really, really important to hear the voices of the people of the community. And I think we had a really great conversation tonight. I'm really glad you were there to share your story. And I don't take for granted that people are going to come and be willing to talk about these really personal subjects. And we talk about stigma and shame that can be related to it. So it's really a great gift when people share their story and their courage. So thank you so much. I don't know if you have a final word.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for having us. And it was really, really a nice opportunity to share, because I sometimes feel like maybe my experience with chemsex is not that it's not valid. Valid is such a weird word for this, but like doesn't count as much, maybe because I'm not a crystal meth user or I've not been using it. But like, yeah, I think I would have liked to hear stories like that, people who are using drugs in other ways or like are revolving around that drug. Because if I knew about it also, maybe I would have a different relationship to it, because I kind of like just got into it really like the hard way. I jumped in the pool and there it was. So yeah, I thank you to give me the opportunity to talk freely about it, because I would have loved to hear it myself when I was younger.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's hope some people find value in this and either they connect or they know someone. I don't know, like, whatever it is, like if you're listening out there to this and it resonates something, when you're ready, know that there are people out there that are fully capable and would be honored to hear your story.
Yeah, we talked a lot about some of the things we want to see in the community, but one thing I can say for sure is there is a community out there. There is people, we're not alone, so that's great. And thank you for being part of my community. And there's other episodes of Chem Stories, 2 other in Montreal and some from Toronto and Halifax also. So you can listen to all these episodes, and thank you again.
Attention all passengers, Captain Patrice speaking. Prepare for landing. We're making our final descent on our YUL heritage flight. Next up, our journey continues aboard the YUL Plurality Flight. Montreal host Éric introduces experienced flyers Ali and Michael for a 3-part conversation exploring gender identity in the context of chemsex. More compelling stories await. Subscribe to stay updated. If you've encountered turbulence while listening to this podcast, please refer to our list of resources and services related to PNP chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca.